Funny Reddit posts and comments. Every Sunday 3 PM British time. Hit in the face for having the audacity to ask a parent to control their child. I was talking to an old friend I haven't heard from in ages and they brought up this story, so I thought I'd share it. I used to work at Dillard's in the children's department, so I saw my fair share of entitled behavior from our customers, but this incident happened to my coworker. A customer was browsing around with her 4-5-year-old son. He was running around, knocking things off racks, etc. The mother made no effort to control him until he crashed into her a couple of times. She told him to go sit in one of the chairs by the dressing rooms. The chairs were pretty nice and upholstered in a silk-like fabric. My coworker was removing garments left in the changing rooms, and as she passed by the little boy, she noticed he was pushing a small car, think Matchbox style car, all over the back of the chair, and it was shredding the fabric. She spoke to the boy and asked him not to do that. He responded by blowing a raspberry at her and pushed the car with even more force. She went to the mother and said, "Your son is destroying the chair with his little car. Could you speak to him?" which is way nicer than I would have put it. The mother stopped and stared at my coworker. They stood there just looking at each other, for my coworker described as too long and very awkward. Finally, the mother asked, so my coworker started saying, "Well, could you?" And before she could finish the sentence, the mother slapped her across the face with the hanger she was holding. So hard it broke a hanger. Now, I would have beat the crap out of that woman right then and there, job be damned. My coworker just turned around and went to find our manager. She first encountered an off-duty police officer who worked security in the store, and is a close friend of mine, and told him what happened. He went with her to the manager. The manager went over to the mother, listened to her and apologized to her for the misunderstanding and gave her 10% discount for her troubles. My coworker was so stunned she couldn't even speak. Even the cop was saying WTF just happened. The cop turned to my coworker and asked if she wanted to press charges. Before she could answer, the manager interrupted, saying that wouldn't be necessary. Meantime, all the other employees in the department are watching all this go down, and I had just walked back in from my break. I see my coworker has a huge welt across her face and is bleeding under her eye. My coworker told the cop she did in fact want to press charges. The manager told her she couldn't do that if she wanted to keep her job. She told him that was fine. She quit. The manager was still insistent that the mother not be troubled by all this. The cop said she could have put her eye out and I am arresting her. If you don't like it, you can't take it up with my commander. The entitled mother was still acting smug until she saw the cuffs. Then she started screaming the usual nonsense. "I'm gonna sue all of you. I'll have your badge. Do you know who I am?" etc. No one but the manager cared, and she still went to jail. All of the other employees and customers who were watching clapped as she was being led out of the store in cuffs. The manager started in on the employees about how to correctly deal with situations like what had happened. We all looked at each other and without saying a word, we all clocked out and left. All of us. Good luck running the entire department by yourself. We hung around our injured coworker until she was done with the police report and then took her to lunch. She said she'd been planning to apply at a different store in the same mall anyway, but hadn't planned on quitting the way it happened and worried that Dillard's would give her bad reference now. We convinced her to go to the other right then, injured face and all. She explained what happened to manager there. She was hired on the spot and told her they don't put up with crap like that. If a customer hits you, no matter who they think they are, charges will be filed and will be permanently banned from the store. I spoke to my cop friend a few days later and he said the crazy woman nearly drove him insane with her screaming and threats on the way to the jail, which wasn't close. After she saw that wasn't working, she started with pleading and bribery. He said he didn't think he'd ever been so glad to hand someone off to booking. All this happened ages ago, and since that day, I've never stepped foot in a Dillard's. Screw them. M demands I give her spoiled kid my blanket during drill. So, fair warning, this did happen a bit ago, but I wasn't permitted internet at the time this all went down. Also, the place I went isn't exactly somewhere I can talk a lot about, like, legally. Also, all names literally must be censored. Also, this was before the coronavirus was a thing at all. No pandemic going on here, no fear of contagion. To give you pretty much the most descriptive answer I can give, I was at a rehab facility for kids with severe mental illness and/or behavioral issues. I have really bad PTSD and depression, and I was in a really dark place, which is why I was there. Our parents weren't allowed to stay here with us, but parents did come and visit occasionally, and today, a girl's mother was visiting her. This girl wasn't very well liked. She acted spoiled, entitled to everything, and would routinely insult other people. She's the entitled kid. I'll call her Martha. The whole group was glad to be away from Martha while she visited her mom in a separate area. I was one of the older kids. I was 16, while Martha was 15, and the other girl involved in the story, we'll call her May, was 14. May and I were particularly close. May shared a name similar to my younger sister and was the same age, so I saw her as a younger sibling figure and took care of her a lot. While she was 14, she acted a lot younger, so I kind of ended up caring for her, especially seeing as the staff could be quite neglectful of our emotional needs. On this particular night, I was laying down in my bed. It wasn't super late, it was only around 8:30, visiting hours for parents ended 9ish, but I happened to be pretty tired and was laying down, half asleep. And then, my ears were invaded with a blaring noise. Someone pulled the ducking fire alarm, meaning we had to evacuate the whole huge building. This had happened twice before, so I was rather prepared. Kids happen to pull the fire alarm here a lot, looking to cause trouble or escape, or whatever. It was pretty cold and rainy out, so I threw on my shoes and grabbed a blanket I had brought from home. I was sensitive to noise and got overwhelmed pretty easily, so evacuating a crowded building full of people and noise wasn't fun, especially considering how I'd hit my head on the way out, so my head was already pounding. While all this was not very fun, neither was sitting out in the cold, damp atmosphere afterwards. A kid tried running away, and another tried fighting a staff member, so I was naturally pretty on edge at the time, as were most of the other kids. Martha and her mom were talking about something or other. I tried to keep as much distance as I could between us without getting in trouble. Then, May came up to me. She was barefoot on the pavement in her PJs. She hadn't managed to bring anything outside with her. I felt bad, so I opened up my blanket and let her in, so she could stay warm. The kid didn't even have shoes, so this was the least I could do. I did my best to comfort her through everything that was happening, when, mid-conversation, Martha approached us and began tugging on my blanket. A moment passed, and she looked at me and said, "Can I come in?" Now, considering that Martha was fully dressed, totally okay, called me fat on multiple occasions, and made fun of May's autistic brother, and made her cry, I decided to say no, sorry, I can't fit anyone else. Martha continued to try and get under my blanket, but I had no obligation to her, and it wasn't a particularly big blanket. It didn't even cover my mattress, or reach my feet when draped over me, and I'm pretty short. After pestering me for a bit, Martha huffed and walked off, and I assumed it was over, until her mother came over, with her hanging back a few paces. Now, it's kind of super against the rules here, to speak to any kids who aren't yours here. So I was surprised when this lady started talking to me. The staff were tied up with the runners and the fighters, but our conversation went something like this. The mom went up to my face and began speaking to me in a raised tone of voice. Again, I'm noise sensitive, so not fun. Let my daughter under your blanket. Me, I'm sorry but no, nobody else can fit, and the other girl here doesn't have shoes. But my daughter is so cold. I think she needs it more than you two do. Keep in mind that this blanket is mine, something I brought from home to this place. Me, I'm sorry miss, but it's mine. I can't give my blanket to your daughter. This lady is now holding the hem of my blanket, like she's about to yank it from us, and is full on yelling at us. May and I are flinching. She's scared and I'm really bad with yelling. You can't hog this blanket all to yourselves. If you can't share, then you should give Martha the blanket. At this point, her yelling attracted a few staff members who weren't caught up with all the behavioral kids, who told her that she wasn't allowed to talk to us. She kept complaining about how it was unfair that I had a blanket and her poor dear daughter had to freeze. I spent the rest of the drill comforting May, who was crying because she had been yelled at. Entitled parents are always no fun, but they are especially bad when they start ducking with mentally ill kids such as myself and, presumably May, though I still can't tell if she was behavioral or simply mentally ill. Please teach your ducking kids and yourselves some manners. Thanks. Thanks for watching the video, guys. If you enjoyed, make sure to leave a like, subscribe and hit the bell so you never miss an upload. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter for exclusive updates and content as well. Goodbye.